We the best, no contest. We the best. There ain't no one like cause of you dumb or you crazy. There's no way, G. Me and my clique, we handling biz while you and your clique just act fugazi. You couldn't.
Jeff, Peter, where are we? We are here. All right, so this is our latest episode of Where the Dogs of Society Howl. Jeff and I are from Brandartica. We've got two very special guests today, and we're going to be talking about, it's sort of a CEO's guide to rebranding and the things that go in and around that. So, Jeff, welcome back.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. I'm going to introduce our guests. First off, here we have got ourselves Miss Nicole Light. And there we go. Everybody's happy. Nicole Light is here. Nicole is a branding and packaging expert for not only CPG, food and beverage, but health and beauty and other things. So she is a builder of powerful CPG brands. Lorde Astor is, also known as Astor. She's a seasoned tech entrepreneur, systems architect, and the founder of Rad Hash, the AI operating system designed to power the next generation of startups. With over 2 decades of experience in building and scaling software ventures, Astor is on a mission to simplify startup creation and redefine what it means to build in the age of AI. And now we will bring them into the room officially.
We are here.
Astor, Nicole, welcome.
Welcome.
My hand. Hi.
Hi. So we were talking a little bit previously, and Astor is in the Arizona zone. And Nicole, where are you again? You are
Philly suburbs.
Philly suburbs. Okay. So we're talking today about CEOs, a guide to rebranding, ready to rebrand. You're going to want to make sure, aren't you? So for those of you out there who own a company, founded a company, the CEO, you're the marketing director, you're this, that, and the other thing. If you're thinking about changing your brand, your name, your logo, your website design, your designs in general, or anything else, you're going to want to stop and ask yourselves a few questions first. And that's what we're talking about. Rebranding isn't just about looking better or being purdy. It's about ensuring that your brand works better and for both your customers and your business. So we've got a checklist to talk about. But first off, I want to get a little bit of input here from Astor and Nicole about some of the things you've learned about helping people rebrand. What kind of things should they start thinking about in terms of knowing why they would rebrand? Astor?
Okay, Nicole. Oh, me? Okay.
Yeah, why not?
All right. Well, I think one of the things that when we start talking to a company, and, we're kind of on a different plane now, we're building products. So we build a lot of companies and we build them fast. And, we're looking for, what is it about you that's natural? What is that one thing that you continually go back to that you don't have to think about, that when you think about who you are as a company or what you want people to know you for, that's what you are. Can you define that? And if you can't, then let's start having conversations, because once we go through that process, I'll start picking up on, what that vibe is, and we can then start fleshing it out into an actual brand strategy. And personally, I don't really call them brand strategies. I call them identities. I think brand is something a little bit more manufactured, something that we designed around that identity. So I'm looking for the identity of that company, how it shows up, and how they're always going to be consistently delivering that. And then we wrap everything around that so that they don't have to do so much work and trying to figure out and stay within that lane. There's nothing worse than a brand that doesn't represent who the company truly is. Something that came up was, built by an agency that didn't really listen to the brand in the first place. So that's what I'm looking for when I'm building a company, is that identity.
And Nicole, what are your thoughts on the same issue? And as far as when would somebody want, how do you know you need to rebrand?
Yeah, I think, so I've worked for a lot of brands that kind of didn't really have a story. You know, there are a bunch of people that got together that are kind of like, hey, we can launch this product. Let's, you know, put this together and launch it and put it in the marketplace. And it's very hard to build a brand when there's no real true story or no one's passionate about what you're building. So I struggled a lot with building those brands. And they floundered tremendously. So from like a startup perspective, like just know who you are, know your story, and be passionate about what you're building and what you're going to sell. And from like a rebrand perspective, like where are you having problems? Like where do the problems arise? Like, you know, is it in the brand? Are people not really resonating with, you know, kind of like what you're, you know, trying to sell? Or are you having problems in production? Is your packaging an issue? Are customers having a bad experience? Are they having a good experience? Like really, you got to kind of look at the overall picture and find out really where those problems arise. And then that's kind of when you know you need to either do a rebrand or, you know, you have to pivot in certain areas, whether it's finding a new co-packer or, you know, finding new packaging manufacturers, whatever it may be.
Right on. Jeff,
Yeah.
any thoughts to add to that too?
Yeah, you know, we talk a lot about you know, the brand story. And you know, there's also a lot of founder stories as well. So, you know, one of the things is figuring out whether the founder story is what you lead with or if it's a brand story, right? Because they could be slightly different. I know a lot of founders start because they have this experience that they want to share, but it may not be what you want to lead with in terms of bringing your product to market. Any
True.
thoughts on that concept?
Yeah, I'm horribly boring. My founder story is so techy. It is so nerdy. I literally live in a cave. I am not the founder you want to be like going with. You know, we want to have this ethereal, this, you know, big plant your flag, carpe diem, you know, manifest destiny when we're talking about the Rad Hash brand, because that's what you're doing. You know, you're realizing that idea and turning it into a software product that's going to do something. And so leading with my story is, you know, that's, you know, not as fun, in my opinion, because I really am boring.
I want you to change your whole thing to put that's what you just said into your, that's my profile.
Yeah, I'm
That's
just
my
boring.
story. I think, well, I agree with you guys. And I think a founder story is one thing, but a brand identity is, it's not the same freaking thing in
No.
like 98% of the cases. Now, let me ask you a simple question here. And you've both been in different phases of branding, rebranding, and helping build companies. What's your gut reaction when someone says, we just want to freshen it up?
No, it never works.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
What does that mean?
Design
A
requires
clean
balance.
shirt or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Once you start changing a design, everything has to change.
That's
You know, for something to be appealing, you know, it's kind of like when you get done with like a logo, or, you know, you've created a brand book, or you've created, you know, some type of brand story, and somebody says, well, can we tweak this? And I'm always, no. If you tweak that, we're changing the whole thing, because there's a balance that comes in with design. And when you're putting all of that together, that's how it's conceived. It's like chopping off a baby's arm. It's like, oh, I don't like that arm. Let's put another arm.
I don't like that arm. Cut it off. Let's get another one. But that leads you to that. You know, I know a lot of people say, well, yeah, sales are slowing down. It's time to rebrand. That is not an indication that it's time to rebrand.
No, that's
and I'm going to put the emphasis on the wrong word, rebrand, because it's fun. You know, that's not an indication. I mean, it can be something to consider, but you know, I think there are great brands that evolve slightly over time that remain, you know, pretty much the same. It's just that sometimes time and culture dictates, you know, you may want to make some changes. Some brands, obviously, same as in any movies or jokes or sayings, they don't age well. So, you know, there's nothing to be ashamed about. But I think it's a matter of going, you know, it's not a matter of freshening up. It's not a matter of, well, the CEO doesn't really like purple. Like, that's nothing to do with it, right?
Yeah. This is kind of an interesting perspective, but I've built brands for co-packers, right? So you go to a co-packer and they've been a manufacturer for many years. And they're like, we want to launch a brand. And I'm like, okay, that sounds great. So we design all the packaging and everything that's going to like hit the target market. but then like they're unwilling to like come up with a brand name. They want to brand it as themselves. Well, we all know co-packers logos are awful. Like let's be honest, like 90% of them are awful, right? So it's
Right.
like, ooh, I have to put that at the top of this bag or box, and you're like, yeah, like you have to. They don't match. You can tell that somebody kind of like just, here's a product we want to launch, and I just want to slap a logo on it.
Yeah, no, and Adam, and I want to make sure we say hey to our gang out there, Jason and Adam and Samuel. Michael is in the house, and there's a few others kicking around, lurking out there. You know, HBO should be attending this
LinkedIn
discussion.
workers.
Yeah, they really they should.
They're not sure what they, could be Max next year,
Yeah, but what about getting, this is the thing I find the most trouble with, and we've had this experience multiple times. I'm not quite sure how to fix it other than to say either everybody else's opinion, within the factory floor doesn't fucking matter, or why don't you all get together in the office and figure out what you want to do and let us know, because when leadership teams aren't on the same page, we've done this before where we've rebranded an entire, like a craft brewery or something else. And because they needed it, honestly, their design look was like from the early 90s, and it looked like an old woman made it. And in fact, an old woman, no offense, had, but she wasn't that old when she made it. But long story short was, you got this great new, you sink all this money into a rebrand and a position change, and then it starts to slowly leak out that, like, well, the master brewer doesn't like it at all, and the girl that waits tables on Thursday nights hates it.
Yes.
You start suddenly seeing this erosion of the base of the trust and the reasoning behind everything, and then the founders start to get worried. Do you guys see that? Is there you have a silver bullet to it? How do we get people to sort of get on the same page with this so there's no shockers later?
See, I have a lot of kind of, I don't want to say the opposite, but a different, where the founders come to me and they're like, well, we want you to handle everything, and we want you to build this from the ground up. And I'm like, that's great, but like, I'm not you. I need you to be involved, and I need you to make a decision, because at the end of the day, this is your business.
Right.
Like, you have to go out into the marketplace and be proud of what I'm giving you, and it has to resonate with you, and you have to scream it from the rooftops. This is what I want to sell. And they're like, well, whatever you create would be great. And I'm like,
We'll know it when we see it.
We'll know it when we see it.
Right. We'll know it when we
a little more yellow.
Well, it's right. It's funny. We were on a LinkedIn Live last week with our friend Jaren. We were talking about social media, and she was like, yeah, people come to her and they say, we just want you to do it. And she's like, no, that's not how this works. Like, this is, you have to be part of the conversation about how you're presenting.
yes,
How we're responding, how we're building that community together. I am going to do the work, but you cannot remove yourself from it.
but then it comes back to the whole, well, the CEO doesn't like the purple. And it's like, it's not about the purple. We just did like a $10,000 photo shoot. Like, I can put any color there that you want. Like, does this bring feeling at all to what we're doing? And it's just like, we really don't like the purple. Well, if I make it green, will it make it better?
Right. But also, why is the purple like the anchor color to your entire brand identity? And yet you keep telling me nobody likes it. Well, why is it there? That might be a good time to consider the rebrand. The other thing, at least in my world, I hear a lot is, we don't like it, but just be creative. What? That's like saying, can you redo the logo and give it a Spanish accent?
Oh my God.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
No, that's a weird place. So when we're talking about, I want to get down to this whole, back it up a little bit. You want to know why you're rebranding. That's the biggest thing. Know why you're rebranding. And if you've hired a professional, for God's sakes, listen to them. And if you've got the wrong professional, maybe that's something to think about, but that's another show on another day. The leadership team has to be on the same page, right? Agree? And you know, I think it goes right on down the line, down the ladder, however you want to position that. You know, I want everybody to be invested and excited about what their brand is going to become and how it's going to present in the future. You cannot please everybody all the time. The third thing I think is most important is that everybody sit down and look at the brand honestly. Let's talk about a little bit of honesty.
I have a good one.
Yeah.
Are you guys ready for it?
Hit me.
All right, so this is a text. This is actually from last week. I was helping a new company do their branding, and they had a specific icon logo idea that they wanted to use. Now, this is something that is already set in stone. It's a musical instrument. So I can't change the way it looks. It's historically the way it is. But this is what it said. This is the text that I got during the meeting. I don't want to say this out loud in the meeting, but I just noticed that if you zoom out from the icon, it kind of resembles a clitoris and a vagina. And I'm like, I can't change that.
And you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
Well, it's told to you, right?
That's when, thank goodness. Then we had in our next meeting, we came up with some ideas on, how to maybe shift it or change it or reposition or whatever. But, if you're putting that on a piece of packaging, it's going to become one of those moments, kind of like the Disney moment where you've got, the big phallus in the background. Maybe that was on purpose, but
I put that there.
You totally did. I knew it. I knew it.
I knew it was you.
They made me make it smaller, but it was still. They said it was unrealistic.
It's so funny though, because I have the same thing and along the same lines of we shot a bunch of photos of salmon and it was stuffed salmon, right? So salmon, you cut it down and you stuff it with crab.
I get,
you know what that looks like? And everyone's like,
right.
It looks like, and cooked salmon, it looks like a vagina. And then you stuff it with crab. So it's but there's other ways to style that, but it's your photo. We have to redo a photo shoot and we have to really think through this.
It could be worse though. You could get through the whole thing, put it into the market, and people are just like, wow.
That has happened.
Happened.
Oh, yes.
I want to mention this because, when you have the delay here, things are happening in not real time. But Brian Hanley just joined the call, and he said, this is already an engaging conversation. He has no idea that in this moment, the word vagina and clitoris
it's coming right at him.
Will be just blown into his earphones. Right.
Right there.
I hope he stays. I hope
we just get more people in on the conversation. We'll just keep going with this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I know. How many times can we say those words on LinkedIn before
we get kicked off?
Show up and
we get kicked off. Right?
Unplug everything.
Licensed music or something playing too.
And Adam Smith said not have an account anymore.
Adam Smith is talking about the teen boy test. Like if a teenage boy looks at your logo and can make any sort of a dirty joke, you move on. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. That's the kind of thing some clients, I have to believe they all know better. But in your case, honestly, here's where I come. This is where I enjoy getting into the process of the design and all of that is going, all right, I get it. You need to have this instrument is critical to your brand, at least in your world, in your mind. That's fine. If we're not going to debate that and it's not up for debate, it's non-negotiable, that's cool. But this is the part where I go, let's disassemble that instrument for a minute.
Yeah.
Let's look at the components that make up what that is. And then let's use those in ways that are still represent, you still have a story to tell, but it's not, going to be the running joke.
Kind of story.
Yeah, not that kind of story. Not a Boogie Nights story, if you will.
Well, if is it an acoustic instrument?
Yeah.
Does it have an F hole?
A what?
A what? Sorry,
you
Jeff,
know those like on a cello, it has an
Yes.
opening that's called an F hole.
Wow, this is really
I
getting.
am going to start using that
This is
On a
going
regular
down a
basis.
path.
Now people say don't be an a-hole. I'm going to just start saying
Definitely
don't be,
getting kicked off of
you know.
LinkedIn after this video.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just telling you that's
No,
what
it's
it
I'm
is.
glad I needed to I needed to know that. I
Okay.
absolutely did. And I'm
I
not
know.
being facetious.
Yes.
That's just something that needs to be in my like repertoire of just naughty things to say.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah, you know, and now there's some advice I've heard that I actually don't agree with. You know, if you're not sure about your rebrand, ask your customers. Where do you guys sit with that? I personally think that's the worst thing you can do.
No. It's either it's good or it's not good.
Own
A
it.
lot of people have opinions, but when you see something good, you know it's good, even if you don't really understand it. People know good design.
And a lot
My
of what
wife's cousin's
happens,
friend doesn't like it.
a lot of what happens in food, and most people don't realize this, but when they're pitching products into retail, they let the sales team at the retailer determine whether or not does this packaging work? Is it going to sell? And then they come back to the team and they're like, all right, we need to change this, this, and this. This needs to be the major call out. Put this at the top. And it's like, okay, well, that was for Wegmans, right? Like,
Right.
Does Target want the same thing? And they're like, no. Target wants, this icon at the top, and we're going to put this here and that there. And I'm like, guys, you're producing like 50 million different types of packaging. You're storing it all. You have to make sure that this packaging goes to this person, that packaging goes there. And it's like, it's a logistical nightmare.
Mhm.
Besides the fact that like you're losing your brand identity at that point because you're just appealing to everyone. And then don't even get me started when they go to club, because that's like a whole other situation in itself. So it's like, no, it doesn't always work. And it's not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to kind of like put your flag in the sand and stick to your brand and say, this is who we are. And this is who we're going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
The only thing about club, though, from what I hear is, in terms of how it's being placed, if it's on a pallet,
yes,
and things are the way that the pallet is stacked,
yes,
matters in terms of what panels that they can read.
Yes.
But yes, well, why would you make a difference, like a totally different packaging for just one retailer? Like that, I don't know how that would ever be cost effective.
It's
You got
not.
to think about the strategy too.
Yeah.
The
strategy ends up changing.
How are you going to market? How are you showing up on shelves? How are you, that all goes into the design, and the elements of your packaging, because, depending on where you're hitting at that eye level, if you're a little bit, below the fold, you may want to do something interesting on the top or some type of color, or, there's a lot of different things that you have to consider that when you're putting it together, it's not just about a design. It's how that design shows up in the space.
And something interesting that came up the other day was like there was a project where everything had already launched into retail, and then they were doing a club version, which is usually the same thing, just bigger in size. And on the club version, the sticker got bigger because the product was bigger. And they're like, oh, we want to put expertly trimmed or like something like that on the product to really stand out. And it's like, well, now people are going to go to Costco and say, well, okay, your stuff in club is expertly trimmed, but it's not in retail.
Right.
Which everything's expertly trimmed. It's just one says expertly trimmed, but I'm going to buy the one from Costco, not the one because consumers don't know. They just believe what they read. Yeah. So it's like, and then it's a whole brand issue.
But then there's Adam is bringing up the point, and I think I'm getting this right. As far as some club stores, require different kind of packaging or something as part of their agreement.
Yes. And club is kind of like, that's why I said club's a different beast, because like Sam's is different than Costco is different than, BJ's, but like at the same time, it's like try to have consistency across the board as much as you possibly can, so you're not having to like explain things.
Right.
And the cost too. I mean, this is a huge cost in terms of, how many times you change your packaging and the types of packaging. And, these are all things that need to go into, the planning of, not just how something looks, but, the cost of being able to actually get that into production and out long term.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only thing I would add too is like there's a consistency on what the customer experience or user experience is in terms of where things are on the package. Like if I see the same brand at a grocery store and then I go to a club store, I have a certain expectation that this is the way this box works for me to find the info.
Yes. I've had customers like change the color of like, okay, let's just say like green is like cucumber melon. And then they'll change the color and they'll be like, we're going to make yellow cucumber melon for Costco as opposed to retail. And I'm like, no. Stop.
No.
Stop.
Yeah, that erodes everything and ruins it all. And then that's part of the thing of going, if you're rebranding, are you trying to fix the past or are you building a future? I think you're building a future. But in building that future, you got to know where you're going.
Yeah.
Right. And as far as, for someone who's the decision maker, when you guys work with a decision maker, how do you approach that part of the conversation to start fleshing it out? Because I'm not quite sure that everybody would know that that's what they need to be doing and that's why you're doing it. How do you get them there?
I'm blatantly honest.
Yeah.
I'm honest. Like, I try not to sugarcoat things. I'm like, listen, this is the reality. And I show examples of where things are, have not worked. And by all means, I want them to challenge me and say, no, well, I can see this, and this will work. But it's also one of those things that I'm very honest.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you have to tie together, all of the components of it, is that, this isn't just a brand design. It's, how it shows up, what it's going to cost, how it's going to, appear in all different types of medium, from, maybe even from, your smartphone, your watch, to email, to shelves, to billboards, commercials, socials. It's not one thing, it's part of a full-blown strategy. And so getting all of those things together, you have to have those conversations. And then you have to look at it, what's your future budget going forward? Are you going to be able to sustain this? Especially in where I'm coming in, for most startups, is they don't have very much money. And if their packaging is eating them alive, then, they're really not going to be able to sustain very, very long and be able to open up the markets that they want to. So it's really a question of, okay, how well does this design work? Somebody breaking in?
Yeah.
Well, that was the dogs. How
the FedEx truck.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's part of our library of sound effects that we hear on Where the Dogs Howl. And
that's actually pretty good.
It was on brand.
Are we going to owe that dog a royalty?
Yeah, Sokka needs a royalty.
Peter, that's our sonic signature.
Yeah, that's right. Who'd have seen that coming?
Like a signal for us to change gears.
Yeah, it's the hook. Yeah, it's the old Grammy music, the Emmy music. I ask people, like, what do you think that what do you want people to say about your company in 3 years? Who are you trying to reach next? And are there problems that you're trying to solve by doing this? What's the space you're looking to move into in their minds? The other thing I find a lot of, and how do you guys feel, especially in rebranding, because this is a question I think a lot of founders feel. Okay, is this gonna alienate my customer base, my loyal customer base? Is it going to alienate them? How can we do it without turning off the early adopters of my brand?
Right.
It's like I always say too, everybody has to evolve, right? Like things have to evolve, and most people don't like change, right? So it's one of those things where it's like, I've always tried to tell people, like, take it in steps. Don't go on like a full on rebrand change. We're changing the website. You don't click here anymore. I'm like, okay, just like take it in baby steps and let people, because people are more adaptive when you do things slower. But then there's also don't do it's so slow to the point where like, we're just not moving forward. You know what I mean? So there's a balance there, I think. And I think it's really choosing the right things to change. I always tell people, changing your packaging is a really like big step. Like if you're going to change the story or the simple things, start changing those things a little bit more and then let the packaging evolve. But sometimes I'm like, hey, go for shock value. Like if you're trying to hit a totally different market and you hope that these people come along and you have a game plan of how you're going to market to this new market, and this new group of consumers, like maybe you just go all in, and hope that your marketing is buttoned up enough to pull those people in and the others will stay.
It's hard to pull off that.
It is. I know. You got to have a lot of marketing spend.
I've been through the process in a very big company, over $100 million a year, and it's a long process because there's so many little pieces that have different. And it was a logo change, right, and a branding change, a whole brand identity change, and it took like a year and a half to 2 years to get it all really in terms of consistency. So it depends on the size of the business on how fast they can pivot, right?
Yeah. And I think how drastic the change is too. Like the only one I can think of right now that most people will think of is like Kind. Kind changed their logo. And it's like, did it change? It did.
Iterative.
But it was like something that was not such a shock that where people still know who they are and everything else. So it's like, it depends on how big that change is too, I think.
I would guess in a lot of times my thought process is, especially when if it's going to be a drastic change, the first place I kind of land is, look, your loyal customers, they're not loyal to you because of the colors on the package. Okay. They're loyal because you have a solid product and they're committed to it. They like your story. They get the whole thing. So I go, you can do these things with some care and caution. And you shouldn't lose any, if many or if any, of those loyal customers. And I go back and I go, look, if I change the look of the can and that your loyal customers, you're like, I'm not drinking that anymore because it's the color's different. They're not fucking loyal anyways then.
Right.
That's not a loyal customer.
there
That's
for
just some kind of jackhat, some kind of an F-hole.
It's not right. It's not new Coke, right? So that's like enough to have a revolution around whatever, right? Because they change the taste of the product.
The formulation is what loses people.
Yeah, that's what loses people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a super healthy brand eater, like really pays attention to ingredients. And there's a couple brands recently that have, sold out to bigger companies.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anyone says, the formula has changed. Yeah. And I'm like, this is different. I mean, one of the biggest ones right now for me is Rouse tomato sauce. Like their tomato sauce was amazing. It was the only one that I would eat, the only one my kids would eat. I kid you not. I open the can now. It tastes like Campbell's tomato soup.
Ooh.
It's not good. And I'm like, you lost me. I'm done. The consistency is Campbell's soup.
Yeah, that's no good.
The ingredients are still the same, but as soon as you start changing tomatoes and how you formulate and how things are blended, it's a totally different process. And I'm like, I'm done. I checked out. Yeah.
I think that's a great point because that happens.
Ingredients are everything, and how you formulate and how you manufacture, it changes everything. So that I think is where people lose people is in the ingredients.
Okay. And Astor, you've got yourself a team of folks and about building teams as well. When someone's going to do something of this nature, not so much as the agency, but how do you put your team together to, complete this kind of a project, a rebrand or a brand identity in general? What are the kind of things you want to bring into the table so that a client feels, comfortable and knows you're competent and trusts you?
Well, a lot of what we do comes from referral, so we don't have much of those hurdles, but when we're building a team, it's dependent upon what the requirements are. Do we have to do a video? Are we doing some type of animation? What's going on? How many different types of logos do we need to do? Where are they showing up? Are we bringing in a social team? Are we building them a social team? What are, the strategies that, are driving what we do? And it's dependent upon what the company's trying to achieve. And, it can be a phased approach. It could be something that's done, over time. This also generally comes with some type of technology. There might be some custom development. There's a lot of different things that when we're building a team, it's all based upon what skills do we need to fill and who does that the best with this kind of customer.
Okay. And Brian made a great point. If you could see it there, it was up real quick. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, you rarely see a team built out of like two people who can do it all. And sometimes I think that's limiting. You know, if you're rebranding, we've talked about this already, but like if you're going to rebrand or you're building a brand, you've got to be able to have a strategist involved. You need design work to be done. You need writers who can clearly tell the story, web and digital experts. And, you know, all of those things have to gel. All of those things, that there's that grout between the tiles that hold it together. And that's the stuff that's maybe that's the least sexy part of it, but like that's the stuff that holds the whole thing together. It's not a one-person job. And one point of view isn't really, I don't think one point of view is really going to like get the job done effectively. Would you guys agree, disagree?
Yeah, I think Nicole said it best in the beginning. You know, the foundation comes in with the brand story. You know, what are we telling? You know, the story has an arc. You know, what are we filling within that arc, and what are the components, and what do we have to do in the future in order to continually deliver this consistently? Because that's really what brand is. And, you know, it's all of those things, you know, delivered all the time, not changing a formula, not losing your inner identity, not, you know, it's a tricky thing. And I think that's why you need to hire, you know, professionals to do these things, because it really is not, it's not a logo. It never was a logo.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We stopped taking jobs that were involved, like we just want a logo.
What does that mean?
What are you going to do with it? Like, what are you going to do with it?
It's like a
feel
refresh, you know?
Yeah, I almost
It's
feel
like
bad
that.
asking, like, what are you going to do with the logo? Like, I want to know more, but it's also like, like the way I come at it, I'm like, people are like, well, why do you care? I just need a logo. And I'm like, well, that means
I gotta build it, dude.
Yeah, and I have to know like about you and what are your goals and what are you doing with this and what is the 5-year plan? Like, and then when you start asking all the questions, they get overwhelmed. They're like, never mind.
Never mind. I can go to Fiverr.
Get it.
They won't ask me anything.
I mean, you know what happens too?
ChatGPT will make this for me and not ask me anything.
They'll just take care of it. I think of it like I'm a web developer, so like I think of it like a website. Sometimes they come and they go like, "Can we just reskin the website?" And I'm like, "Well, we can do that, but do you want all the same pages?" No, we have some ideas for different pages. And so is all the content staying the same? No, we're thinking of rewriting everything. And we also want it dialed in differently for SEO. We want to change the keywords. So basically, you want a brand new website. That's what you're asking for.
No, we just want to reskin it.
Yeah,
we just want to reskin it. Yeah.
Right.
How many things can you guys think about in the world that actually get reskinned? Is there anything you can think of off the top of the dome of items that are reskinned? And if anybody's listening still, a few of you, do you have anything you could tell us that requires a reskin aside from a drum?
Well, and also Mako, who does cheap car paint jobs.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, immediately came to my mind was like a wrap, like a car wrap. Like I guess
wrap and a drum. Nothing else is reskinned.
Yeah.
It really needs to be. You can skin things, but you don't I'm gonna reskin that badger in the yard.
Well, that's what my kids are archers, so I'm like, do you reskin like a deer on the wall? Like, I don't think you reskin that. It just is what it is.
No, I think it's called unskinning, de-skinning, if you will. Whatever the kids are saying today.
Taxidermy. I'm not a taxidermist.
Yeah,
we're not in the reskinning business.
Oh no, our agency does taxidermy also.
That is a LinkedIn post.
We can do that. Yes.
Right there.
What do you need? We do it. Having a plan, that's the end all be all. Would you guys say if you're going to do something like this, if somebody, just because somebody thinks that the color sucks, that's not a reason to rebrand. Just because you think that the competition looks cooler than you, that's not really a reason to rebrand. Sales are down. That's not really the sole reason one would rebrand. But there has to be something really wrong, and you need a plan in order to adjust it. Would you say?
Yeah, and you need to commit. Like, I have customers who are like, I mean, they're fairly larger brands, but they just can't like commit. It's like, it's almost like they have like an identity issue that it's just
Mhm.
like, can you just commit? Like you are who you are. And even if they're already in the marketplace, they still don't commit. I'm like, I don't understand how we're not committing. Like, we've built this. This is beautiful. I love it. But yeah, they're just like, well, so-and-so's doing this. Should we do that?
No.
No.
I mean, yeah, the only thing I would add too is like there's this thing with say, wait, so you know, when you do the packaging, you're thinking of the customer in mind. I think that way too when
Yes.
we're building out a website. You know, obviously who's coming here, you know, how can we best serve them. But you have to also think about like the sales teams, right? They have to be able to tell the story. They have to sell this thing in.
Yeah.
The story has to be repeatable and simple. They have to believe it when they say it, because they can't. If as soon as the salespeople aren't on board, you got big trouble. Like
Right.
it's really big trouble.
I have to say, I went to like an event up in New York City, and I was sitting on a panel and we were all discussing like different things about business. And there was a woman there. Her name's April. She owns Cheeky Cocktails. And I was just so impressed when she sat there and gave the pitch of like who she was. I mean, you felt it, you know, you were like, she is committed to who she is. She is passionate. I was just like, can you teach me? Like, teach me to talk about myself in the same way, because she was just you could feel it in the room. And it was just amazing. And I did say to her, I'm like, you know who you truly are.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I know who I am, but it scares the hell out of me.
And me too. Excuse me.
I got a lot of things going on.
Do you, Jeff, I'd like to ask each of our guest speakers today a random question that they don't expect. Can you think of anything off your quick dome there for Nicole or for Astor? I mean, I have a question and I'll speak slowly.
Yeah, I have a question.
You got a question? Okay. So either of you can answer this, frankly. Okay. Given the opportunity or like no opportunity, this is your choice. There's nothing else you can do about it. You can either spend the rest of your life having to get up each day and listen to the entire Kiss Alive double album from front to back. I believe it's 117 minutes of just raw Kiss energy. Or you've got to wear jorts every day, wherever you go. No matter the event. What are you going to do? And don't say you're going to wear pants over them, because it's not.
Well, I need to know, what are jorts?
Jean shorts.
Oh.
Yeah.
You are learning so many things.
I know.
I am. I know what
I'm glad you
jeggings are.
came. So is it going to be Kiss Alive double album every day, front to back, or jorts wherever you go?
Jorts.
I'm wearing jorts.
I'm wearing jorts, and I'm getting really tall socks, tube socks.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can
And a white
redecorate
beater.
those jorts to make them better.
Yeah.
I can't stop that.
Dazzle them.
Yes.
That's
Jorts.
true. Good answer. Yeah, I would choose the jorts also. Luckily, we don't have to make that decision.
Yes, thank goodness.
Jeff, did you have a question you'd like to ask our guest?
Yes. So here's the scenario. You can only eat one color of food for an entire week. What color would it be?
For a week?
White.
A week.
White?
Yes. Potatoes, bread, ice cream.
Yeah, it's only a week. I mean, right?
Yeah,
You'll
that's
live.
good.
French fries yellow, or are they considered white?
I think I've heard of white
Chicken.
potatoes.
Chicken.
Yeah.
Cauliflower.
There's white eggplants.
You got it down.
Yeah.
Nicole,
Egg
what
white.
about you?
I would go green because I love vegetables, fruit. I love herbs. Old me would have said purple, but now that I don't eat things that are artificially dyed or like fake, flavorings, because I did not realize you cannot actually naturally make the flavor of grape.
Oh, really?
It's not possible, because when you think about it, grapes don't actually taste like grape flavoring of anything. Grape flavoring is something that we made. And it's artificially made. So like, I loved grape flavored everything. Dimetap, sign me up. Now I'm like, now I'm good.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, do you guys have Dimetap in the house? We all do at the end of these LinkedIn Lives. Everyone in the audience, everyone on the show is trying to do a shot of
A Dimetap.
Um,
Gotta be great.
no, okay. Astor's like, yeah, no, I don't.
She's like,
know.
I don't have Diamond Tap either.
I want to
so
thank
don't
you guys
worry.
for coming on. We've been friends on LinkedIn for a little while, and I know we've all tried to like connect at some point and go, let's talk and let's just, virtually hang out. I'm thrilled that we got to do this recently. Nicole and I got to do that yesterday, and Astor, we got to do this with you today. So hopefully I look forward to just seeing you guys in the feed, talking more, sharing, anytime we can help either review, same here. If there may be times where we tap into you guys and go, need some help here. That'd be great. That's what this is all about, right?
yeah.
Yes.
If you need software, I'll build it.
I love
That's
it.
all I got.
Love it. Okay, that's cool.
That's enough.
I ain't got that. And by the way, you know where raspberry flavoring comes from?
Where? Raspberries?
No.
No.
Google it.
Is
No.
it beaver butts?
Isn't it?
Oh no,
Isn't
not
it?
beaver butts.
Isn't it?
Beaver?
Why is raspberry blue though? Why
What
is
I'm trying to
raspberry
figure
blue?
out is who figured that out and how many different animals did they test,
Well,
try.
people eat beavers, so
So
Really?
maybe somebody was like, my God, this tastes just like raspberry.
That's
You're
not
like,
Just
ooh,
right.
this part,
interesting.
though.
The
Interesting.
things you learn. I learned new things today too.
This whole thing is just disintegrated into Lorde.
Started. What did it? Oh,
Really? I thought it's
before
great.
F-hole. is
I
what
love it. I do. This was a great talk. This was one of the
I
better
love
talks.
making everything weird everywhere I go, so I hope I accomplished that today.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
yeah, we
did.
did
You
too.
did.
Yeah.
You had help, though. Okay. Hey, can we do a screen grab of everybody before we go?
Yes.
Just to go like this happened. Not that it didn't. What are you going to do with your face? There you go. I'm going to do, I don't know. I'm just going to stare at the camera like I don't know. Ready? In 3, 2, 1. Wait, Jeff. No, that's my thing. You can't do
Oh,
that.
sorry.
I'm putting an end to that.
All right.
All right, it's done. It's done. All right, kids. You guys rock. Thank you so much. I'm going to push the old endaroo here. And there we go.